born in New Orleans, Louisiana. He would go on to play college football at San Diego State, where he was a two-time All-American. He played for the Indianapolis Colts, your favorite team, Julian, from 1994 to 1998, and the St. Louis Rams from 1999 to 2005. The greatest show on turf he was sure part of. Actually, he was the show on turf, baby. He was drafted as the, little trivia, as the what? Just take a guess, 1 through 4.
2.
Ding, ding, ding. You are correct. He was drafted as the second overall pick in 1990, between 3 and 5.
4.
1994 NFL draft. That is correct. You're a genius, Jules.
Yeah.
He was widely regarded. No wonder why you could play freaking defense and offense at the same time.
No way.
He was widely regarded as one of the greatest running backs in NFL history. And in your mind, he was.
I think he's the greatest of all time.
There we go. He has your heart. He was known for his speed, power, and ability to excel both as a rusher and a receiver. He was named NFL MVP in 2000, 3 Offensive Player of the Year awards, and a Super Bowl championship. He was elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2011, which was my fantasy football season that I dominated. So Marshall Faulk and I, we have a connection. 2011, he went into the Hall of Fame. 2011, I had my best fantasy football season, baby. Oh, we on the same page.
So we're on to Marshall Faulk.
Oh, oops. I gave it away. I'm so sorry. He is still regarded as one of the best fantasy football running backs of all time, but fantasy football wasn't even that big in the 90s and 2000s, but he's still regarded as one of the best. That's how good he was, Jules.
We're on to Marshall Faulk.
Marshall Faulk.
First thing that comes to mind when I think about Marshall Faulk
is what, Jules? What comes to your mind? I know he has your heart. I know he's your favorite running back of all time. I know you think he's the best running back of all time in your heart.
Dude, I think you watch Marshall Faulk, he reminds you of Barry Sanders, and he also, he had the stop-go. He was really good at cutting back. He had really great vision. He's bigger than what you thought. And then you throw in the pass game where he is the original. I mean, there's Roger Craig and those old West Coast, but he was like the original fucking personnel problem guy. Where he got 1,000. I think he did the 1,000. He did that one time, but he had a lot of 800, 900, 400, 500. He was a pivotal part of their pass game. He was great in the run game. And he didn't get hurt. He was healthy his whole career. He didn't miss games. That's unreal, especially how he played. I mean, he missed a game here or two, but he didn't have any significant time missage. So he's, I think, one of the, he's probably, because of that, this is a newer style of football of being someone that is using the pass game. It was super kind of not known when Roger Craig and those old 49ers and those Bills teams, those run and shoot teams and West Coast teams, it wasn't normal. After Marshall Faulk, people were trying to make Marshall Faulk. And then you get LTs, and then you get the Christian McCaffreys. It is because Marshall Faulk, man, took it to a whole nother level.
I mean, I think he just, missed only, you were talking about how prolific of a player he was in sustainability. I think he just missed only 16 games in his 12 years of playing. And at the running back position, getting 30-plus carries a game, getting tackled that many times, and just to miss 16 games out of 12 seasons is just incredible. All those catches as well. Running full speed downhill, a linebacker running full speed at you and getting blown up and just still being able to be that sustainable and have that longevity is just out of control. And the synopsis, the AI also missed that he was a 7-time Pro Bowler. He was a 3-time All-Pro. He was Rookie of the Year in 1994 as well. So right when he got on the scene, he was producing, man. He was not a bust at all. Obviously not a bust. We're talking about him as the greatest of all time, but he was producing right away. So he made that GM feel very good right from the beginning. Greatest show on turf. Obviously that's what you think of him whenever you hear about him, which was one of the coolest, names that you could be, associated with in all of football. And what's great about Marshall Faulk and LT as well is that these guys were the running backs when the running back position was the absolute shit. Everyone wanted to be a running back growing up.
Best player.
Not really anymore, but this
coming back.
It's coming back. It is coming back.
Look at
but
all
this
the great
is the
teams
era
right now.
where these guys, where everyone growing up, even if you were a defensive lineman, you still wanted to be a running back. I was a tight end. I wanted to be a running back because of these guys, LT and Marshall Faulk, baby.
No, without a doubt. Isn't it crazy to think he played with Peyton Manning?
Peyton Manning?
Yeah, he played his
Peyton
last
Manning,
year.
all this shit too, though.
Yeah. No, but no one remembers him. Everyone forgets about how good of a Colt he was. He's got his jerseys in the rafters. He played 4 years there, and they retired his jersey. He was rookie of the year. His first game on the scene goes for 134, 3-touchdown debut. Like, that's crazy. He was a fucking machine. He hit you he hit you with the run, long run, hit you out the backfield. Talk about seam route. We talked about seam route with LT. He ran seam routes. He ran post. I saw him run a bang a post from the outside, which is a real receiver route. He used to run real receiver routes. Now they always throw this running back can run routes like a receiver, which
is rare. Like you can tell when it's a running back that's split out wide, especially in this era.
But even now, a lot of guys,
obvious.
even the analysts will say this guy runs. He's got routes like a receiver.
But no,
not true.
No, that analyst is wrong.
Yeah,
Marshall Faulk though.
He had routes like a receiver.
Yes, he did.
He had routes like a receiver.
If you can run a post route, split out wide, and run a post route as a running back, that means you got routes like a wide receiver.
In cuts, out cuts, option routes.
The typical route for a running back right now, 5-yard hitch route. Freaking stutter, one step, turn around. What's that called again, real quick? Like the quick pass, you just step one, turn.
Screen?
Yeah, a little rip screen to you. They also a little
angles.
Under
in the
angles and the seams out of the backfield. Marshall Faulk was running the whole entire freaking
route tree.
Yes, that's for sure.
I mean, in 1999, 1,300 yards rushing, 1,048 receiving. Chris Johnson broke his record in 2009, though, 2,500 yards. Man, I forgot how good Chris Johnson was.
Chris Johnson. CJ 2K, baby.
Yeah, he did. That was crazy that year.
Mm-hmm.
The greatest show on turf year, 1999 to 2001, he had 59 touchdowns. The greatest show on turf had 59 touchdowns, 6,756 yards of offense, and he won the MVP in 2000. Who won the MVP?
No, that's his stats. That's his stats.
Oh.
Redo that.
The 3-year run in St. Louis with the greatest show on turf, 1999 through 2001. He had 59 touchdowns, 6,756 yards at offense, and he won MVP in 2000. That and a Super Bowl. That is an elite 3 years.
Now that's
span.
a show, if you ask me. I mean, Marshall Faulk made playing on turf cool, even though playing on turf wasn't cool. Like, everyone wanted turf fields in high school because of Marshall Faulk and the greatest show on turf. But you get so bruised and banged up playing on turf that it was the worst idea ever to even step on turf.
And it was old turf. You know what's crazy? He was on old turf and he played that many games and didn't miss that many games.
That is crazy.
That is that's built differently.
You want to hear a little cool fun fact? Sean Payton was his running back coach at the San Diego State University when he was there playing running back.
How does a guy
That's crazy.
That's
crazy.
You know what it tells you? There's a lot of unscouted guys in Georgia. If he went to San Diego State, or there's a lot of unscouted guys in Louisiana if he's going to San Diego State.
Well, talk about getting unscouted. He only had one offer.
That's what I mean.
And it was to San Diego State.
That's what I mean. You get that's how much talent there is probably goes unseen in Louisiana.
I mean, you went unseen and you were California.
We got a lot of big people. It's a big.
But you weren't that good in high school.
I was pretty nice.
Yeah. But also his high school, they were kind of like a heavy passing offense as well. Like they didn't really.
Okay.
But he must have not been that great in high school though, because if you're that great, you kind of like change from going to a heavy passing offense to like, let's hand the ball off. Like this guy's 100 times better. But like he must have really burst onto the scene at San Diego State University. Like once he got into college, kind of like you, Jules, a little bit. Not everyone is a beast from the beginning.
Late bloomers, they call it.
Yeah, late
bloomers.
I'm telling you this. It's better to be a late bloomer than an early bloomer.
How about?
I can tell you that right now. It sucks to be the greatest as a young buck, and then you don't make it.
No, yeah.
So late bloomers. I'm a late bloomer.
I think you just bloomed.
Yeah.
He sold popcorn at the Superdome as a kid. How crazy is that?
That is pretty crazy. But that's a lot of stories. That just shows his work ethic just as a kid that's installed into him. And that's what makes you great. Like, I was a paper boy growing up, and I took that route personal, and I wanted to make sure everyone had that paper on their front porch when they woke up in the morning with the coffee in their hand, opening up the door. Like, the hard work and dedication was just installed into you as a young kid, and that's just like Marshall Faulk selling popcorn at the Superdome. He wanted the job, and he wanted to get it done.
You ever have any crazy jobs as a kid?
I was a paper boy. I was also an umpire as a kid, and I cooked.
Let me see your strike three. Let me see your strike
three. You out of here, mother trucker.
Did you used to ring these kids out? I used to umpire at college in Kent, and I used to ring up these kids all the time.
Oh.
I'd change it up. Certain kid, lefty. I mean, I got in a real pickle.
You sounded like a true pro right there. But that's you. You love you love the animated effects, and you sounded like oh, you got me there. I just struck out over here with that strikeout.
I went over here to ring these little kids up, send them home. Don't be thinking that ain't a strike, kid.
You hold on. Back to Marshall Faulk. I mean, there's one.
Yeah, I got in a real pickle once.
Doing what? Let's hear it.
Well,
I like pickles.
Yeah.
Especially Angelica pickles. Rugrats. No, she was mean, actually. Yeah, that pickles was mean. All right, back to your pickle. Oh, Tommy Pickles, too. Tommy Pickles is my favorite. Oh, pickle? Like you're in baseball? Like you're getting a pickle? Like pickle. You're that type of pickle. Yeah. Okay.
Literally. Right. So
that was my favorite. You ever play running bases growing up?
100%.
Yeah, and it's all about being a pickle.
Because kids love to play that game pickle, in this specific league, there was a rule where they couldn't, like, the catcher couldn't sit and fake throw the ball at first. So, like, they had to throw it back, and the runner couldn't advance to try to eliminate pickle. So one time the kids are doing it, and all of a sudden I tell the catcher, I'm like, kid, throw it back to the pitcher. He ain't going nowhere. Well, he throws it back. The kid takes off. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And so all of a sudden they throw it, and it goes over the kid's second baseman. The kid gets all the way to third. And all of a sudden the coach is yelling at the catcher, why'd you throw it back? And the kid looks at me and he goes, the ump told me to throw it back. And so I'm sitting there. I got this coach over here. There's another coach over there. And I'm like, yeah, you got to go back to first. All of a sudden, this coach comes out. I was like, what the hell is you talking about? He's on third. I was like, nah, he's got to go back. I told the kid to throw it back. You know the rule. We can't do that. And I almost had to get suspended as an umpire because this guy filed a report like, oh, this guy can't do it. So I'm sitting there, and this little kid, as soon as the pitcher comes back, and I get under there, and it's just me and him, because, you know, you have a relationship with the catcher when you're behind the plate. I go, bro, didn't your friends ever teach you about snitches? And the kid goes, what? I was like, nothing. Strike! But fucking old, man. Having a job as a kid, I mean, it teaches you a lot of values. I mean,
it sure does.
You know, especially Marshall Faulk selling popcorn at the Superdome.
All right, and then just a little scouting report that I have on Marshall Faulk, just watching some of his highlight film, his top plays, is that obviously he has a high football IQ to be able to, you know, come out of the backfield and run all the routes, and also to be able to carry the ball and know how to hit the gaps. You got to know the whole game of football. When you're that versatile of a player, you got to have a high football IQ, which a lot of football players obviously have a high football IQ, but he had it to a whole nother level, and he's so elusive on the field. He makes defenders miss. But the one thing I really loved about him was he had one of the best spin moves, man.
Spin move was
off the charts.
He's just smooth with it, too. Mm-hmm. I remember we were watching some research, and there was a clip of Mike Martz. Remember we were talking, he was the head coach of the Greatest Show on Turf.
Yeah, I remember. What did he say about him? What did he say?
Well,
come on, tell
Marshall was, you know.
Tell him, Jules.
They have all these notes for installation, and Marshall's got all these pens out, and he's got very critique notes and using different colors for different positions, different players. And I guess Marshall looks back at the team, and he goes, how the hell is no one else writing notes? Because look at all this information. You know, that's the kind of guy he was. He was a smart, hardworking dude that worked his balls off for everything he had. It wasn't like he was just that. I mean, he was that guy, but it's crazy. I used to love Barry Sanders. And then, you know, I just remember as a kid, this guy, Marshall Faulk, was just so crazy elite. He reminded me a little bit of Barry Sanders with his cutting and he could drop his weight and stuff. He was taller. He wasn't as short as Barry, but like he was kind of like Barry Sanders. And then he was also a really good receiver.
Yeah, he was like a little bit thicker than Barry Sanders, but also he can go out and run routes.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Which is nuts.
That's why, like, I was thinking about it, and we were watching all this research, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, dude, this is like probably one of the best. This is the best guy of all time. Look at these plays.
He is. And just talking about his football.
But it's crazy. Then you watch Jim Brown, you watch Walter Payton, and then I don't know if it's just because I just watched it.
So many good running backs, bro. So many good.
But
it's hard to decide and decipher like who's number one. But just talk about his football IQ. I mean, look at this quote from Sean Payton. He knew not only the offensive side of the football, but also the defensive protections. And he knew the quarterback play as well, and he studied it hard. That's just from Sean Payton. Michael Strahan said he was a coach out there. He's quoted saying that. So, like, that just shows how smart of a player he was, and that's what took his game to a whole nother level as well. So, just speaking of that, Jules, what type of guy is Marshall Faulk?
What kind of dude?
What kind of dude is he?
What kind of dude is Marshall Faulk? I mean,
he
hits a lot of things.
These running backs, though, we're talking about them, none of them are actually, like, freaks. Like, none of them stand out to you like that. Like, I would say, like, LeGarrette Blount was a freak because he was like 6'4".
Derrick Henry.
Yeah, Derrick Henry's a freak. Like, these guys aren't freaks like that. I mean,
they're not. No, but they had. It's freaky that
it's freaky what they're doing, but they're not freaks in our type of category.
It's pretty freaky how healthy he was for how much football he played.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got some dog tendencies. He's clearly a freaking stud. But when I think of him, I think of him as an innovative guy.
We're on the same page, brother. Same page.
He pretty much
just how smart he was.
Smart, and how he's changed the running back position to what it's become now. Look at Saquon Barkley out of the backfield. Look at Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield. You know, it's such a pivotal part of a lot of these offenses. A running back, they usually have a two-headed monster. You know, Detroit has, you know, Montgomery and Gibbs and Algier and Robinson in Atlanta. This guy did all three downs and was just as good as all those guys and better at a lot of these, at everyone, at both of them. Like, that's how good Marshall Faulk was. He invented a position. He evolved the running back position. That's why I think he's a whiz.
Hey, I'm on the same page, and just his football IQ and just the coaches and former players that just talk about how smart he was and how he knows everything that's going on the football field. That takes your game to a whole nother level. I mean, you can be a freak of an athlete, you know, but if you don't know what to do out on the football field, you're not a good football player. You can be less of an athlete, but you know what's going on with the game of football.
And he wasn't less of an athlete.
You can be that much better than the guy that's more athletic than you out on the football field. You're a better football player because of that. And what's also crazy is Marshall Faulk had 760 receptions in his career for 600
more than me
in 875 yards, Julian, in the regular season. You had 620 receptions only for 6,822 yards. And he was a running back, and he had more receptions and yards than you, which is out of control. I'm not saying anything against you. I'm just saying that's how good Marshall Faulk was back in the day. And guess what? They didn't throw the ball as much either back in that era, you know, back in late 90s, 2000.
We'd also be so crazy not to mention one thing. Kay Faulk's his cousin. Kevin Faulk was his cousin.
That makes sense.
They're just running back.
Sense.
Huh? Kevin Faulk's his cousin. That's the
Faulk bloodline.
They have some crazy running backs that know how to catch out of the backfield in that bloodline.
And run the ball as well.
Well, I mean, Kay Faulk, all of our pass game was to Kay Faulk.
It was.
And he was like one of the most elite punt returners.
And he was one of the smartest players on the football field as well.
These Faulks.
He knew what was going on. He knew what the linemen were doing, what the quarterback was doing. What the fuck? What the fuck? How are you guys so smart?
And good.
Yeah, and freaking great teammates as well.
Yeah, great teammates.
Well,
Right.
what kind of dude is he, Jules? You ready?
On 3,
1,
2.
3. Whiz.